All right, I want to cover a concept called client finance acquisition. And basically, what this is how we're getting each new customer to pay for themselves within the first 30 days. So, my promise to you is that if you use this concept, you'll be able to grow your demand without bleeding cash, and that you'll be able to scale and remove leads from the 4L framework as a bottleneck forever if you can get 30-day cash gross profit per customer be greater than CAC, customer acquisition cost. To do this, we'll need to find three numbers, which is customer acquisition cost, gross margin, and the 30-day cash revenue. We'll just call that R30. We'll apply one rule, basically a formula, and then use four levers to move the number. That sounds super math dense. Basically, uh, I'll tell a little story to kind of explain. So, when I was launching Huntersville, we got it to 125 recurring customers in the first 3 months. But honestly, during that whole time, the business was not profitable for the first 3 months, which you would kind of expect when you're launching a business, but it wasn't quite where I wanted it to be for how hard I was working. And I couldn't quite figure it out. I didn't know if it was like a efficiency thing that might have had to do with like route density, if it was that as a working GM I wasn't doing enough in the field, but I was also trying to grow as fast as I could. So I was doing a lot of door hangers, a lot of marketing, different things like that. I think it might have been a combination of a few of those things, but it definitely had to do with this, which was basically every time I got a customer, that customer cost me money for the first few months until they finally broke even just from a gross margin perspective, not even bottom line. So I was paying on that customer basically for 2 to 3 months. This was a concept I didn't understand then or have like a full grasp on. I kind of had a feeling I needed to upsell more projects, different things like that, try to pull some cash forward, but I didn't truly understand it like this. So the rule for client financed acquisition. Basically, we want that 30-day cash to be greater than our customer acquisition cost divided by our gross margin. So, defining some terms, the gross margin is one, basically 100% minus your COGS. Figure out your COGS if you don't know what it costs you to produce a dollar. Basically, look at your P&L, take your direct wages, so your field team, any materials or dump fees, add all of that together, and then subtract that from what the total revenue was. That's going to be your gross margin. And then the basically the client financed acquisition or the client finance multiple, which is CFM, is the 30-day cash times your gross margin that we just figured out divided by CAC. So kind of, for this rule, a few targets. We need CFM. That's the number we really want here. We need CFM to be above one. That means each customer we're getting pays us enough to pay the team and to cover their cost of acquisition. If CFM is two or greater, that means that that customer is going to pay for themselves, pay their customer acquisition cost, and pay another customer's customer acquisition cost. So finding your numbers, customer acquisition cost, take your total ad spend. If you're doing door hangers, those are really cheap, but I would include the cost of wages to put them out. If you're running ads, just take basically, what you're spending on the ads, maybe plus a little bit of time for management. Divide that by how many new paying customers you got from those marketing campaigns. Your gross margin, we just covered that, one minus the percentage. So that is direct wages, materials, dump costs for 1 month, right? If you look at your P&L, you should be able to see this at the top before you start getting into expenses. R30, that is the total cash collected divided by the total new paying clients. So here's an example. So over the last 8 days, we started running aeration ads. This is something that I really wanted to test, and try to grow while still being positive, being profitable within the first 30 days on a customer. The reason I keep saying 30 days as well is 30 days is the time that you can put money on a credit card, pay it off, and have no fees, right? Basically, you can just grow with any secured credit card, or 30 days is also, just the cycle of like when rents due, all those monthly expenses that reset, utilities, all of that stuff, like you still have to pay those things next month. So we measure in 30-day windows because that is the payback time for a lot of things. So over the last 8 days, we spent just over $2,300 in total ad spend on Facebook ads. Total new paying customers is 26. Not great considering we had over 100 plus leads. I don't care about leads though, because they are good. They're going to go into our CRM and we might sell them on something later down the road. But all I really care about is just like, can I get profitable within the first 30 days? The leads are going to be super beneficial when we send them one clicks, send them texts, things like that. And if they sign up for something next year, that just helps. That's just like pure gravy. But currently in the 26-day or in the 30-day window, it's going to be 26 paying customers. CAC, we were at just under $90 per customer. 30-day revenue collected. So this is just the one-time work. This does not include any of the customers that we did sell on treatments, mowing, other things like that. It's right around $7,000, a little bit over, but we'll be conservatives at $7,000. That is the revenue per customer. So you just take the 7,000 divided by 26, just under $270 per customer, basically, within the first 30 days. And then our assumed gross margin, because this is aeration, I'm adding our P for P plus our materials and some other things. The reason it says conservative there is typically our aeration margin is around 40%, so that would put our gross margin at 60. However, I ran a $100 off aeration special to get more leads, and that plays into the gross margin. Nonetheless, just know 50% on this service specifically. So R30, which was about 270 times 50% or 0.5. Take that, divide it by what the customer acquisition cost is, and you get CFM, which is the customer financed multiple. So that's 1.5 for us. I would like it to be better, but I'm okay with that for the first basically week-long test. So what does CFM of 1.5 mean? Well, that means each new customer in the first 30 days, their gross profit covers 1.5 CACs, basically. That's after covering their own cost of delivery. So, in simple English, each customer is paying for us to deliver on them. They paid my cost to acquire them, and then half of the next guy's. So, every time I get two customers, I get my third one for free, basically. And then I don't have to continue to put money in. We'll get to that in a second. So why the 30 days matter, kind of covered that already. Bills, that's when recurring things happen. You can use credit for this very easily. Um, Not saying you should do that, but basically you can have a small budget and before the next round of bills hits, you can replenish that budget plus some. So CFM, as long as that is above 1 inside of 30 days, growth is just an easy thing. You don't hop on this like negative downward spiral like we did with Huntersville, gaining 120 customers. What I'll show you in a moment is like when you're losing money in the first 30 days on a customer, it costs you more and more to keep fulfilling basically because you're trying to grow yourself out of it, trying to make things more dense, pick up more customers so your guys can be more efficient, bring in more higher, better guys. It's just like downward spiraling. Four levers that can change the CFM. So if yours isn't where you want it to be, this is what we'll be doing over the next week and a half, is we'll be trying to increase the R30. So our close ratio is extremely low. It's under 25%. I'd like that to be around 40. So increasing close ratio, upselling more, within the first 30 days. Deposits, prepayments even. Not everybody has to prepay, but if you get one customer that prepays for the year, they prepay 3 grand. Well, if your average customer is paying $300, that's 10 customers worth right there in the first 30 days. You can increase your gross margin, improving efficiency. It's kind of what I was just talking about. Lower P for P percentage. So that doesn't mean you take money away from your guys. It just means like if you raise prices, your guys could still get a small bump, but you can have more of that drop to the bottom line. So in 2024, we were at $80 per hour to the customer, and our guys were at 33% on P for P. That was 26.40, I believe, per hour to the guys. Now we're at $100 per hour with 28% P for P. So the guys actually got a like $1.40, $1.60 raise, but we dropped 5 points to the bottom line. So they get paid more, um, while we were able to, put more away for growth. Lower CAC, that's just creative. Your ads targeting better neighborhoods with door hangers, better offers, close ratio there. Close ratio also affects that. Close ratio affects both the cash collected and your CAC. It's like kind of a double dip because if instead of 26, I had 52, my CAC would be halved, but I would also collect more money. So having a really high close ratio, as long as you're covering your cost of goods and those aren't getting out of control, it could be a good thing. Shortening cash lag, so charging on acceptance of things, card on file, don't wait for your money, because all of this is good if you have somebody accepting $1,000 worth of work in the first 30 days, but you don't collect any of that until day 60 because they, wait till they get a bill on day 30, and they pay by check, they're slow with it. Like you're 30 days past the month, and then you're finally getting your money. So here's a couple examples. This is basically what was happening in Huntersville. For this example, we're just going to keep it the same across the board. Customer acquisition cost of $100, a biweekly mo of 70, and a team is earning 30% on P for P. So on day one of the month, we spend $100 to get a customer. The next day, we go out and mow the lawn. That costs us $21 on P for P. 2 weeks later, mow the lawn again, $21. 2 weeks later, $21. Okay. At the end of month one, we have spent $163 acquiring this customer. We're negative 163. Next, end of week billing. So this is the shortening cash cycles. It was one of the last examples there. So $100, right? 21, same thing. So we're going to spend the same 163, but the difference is we collect 140 in that 30 days, right? So end of week billing can help speed up the cash cycle, right? So that brought $140 into this month. We're still losing money to get customers though within the first 30 days. Okay. You don't want to change your billing cycle, right? Because that might be a pain to have different customers on different billing cycles. That's fine. What if we can land a $400 cleanup, right? So same things, paying to get this customer. We go do the initial mow. The guys put in a note, right, on the initial mow here for an upsell for a cleanup. Estimator goes out, it gets closed, it gets scheduled that next week. So we spend $120. So now we're increasing our cost of what it takes to fulfill this customer. We're going to spend an extra $120 there, but at the end of that week, we're collecting $400, or it could be same day, whatever. We're going to collect $400 for that. This is now a better month. We're up $117 on this customer. And if it is $100 to acquire a customer, that means I end this month with over like this customer has paid for themselves, right? Plus they're starting to pay for the next guy. Or sorry, they have paid for the next customer because we're over the CAC value. Of course, there will be other small incremental things with this. Like I know this doesn't take into account expenses, but luckily in our industry, a lot of those aren't crazy variable, right? Like it doesn't cost a ton extra to just add another customer, unless you're buying assets, which of course, like you're gonna need to save up for that. But if like you need to just rapidly fill trucks, this is how you would do it. Park, profit for a while, just stay there, and then go again each time you add a truck. Now, this is a combination of the last two, right? So end of week billing plus that $400 cleanup. So we're now collecting $540 in the first month, and we've paid for two and a half customers. This is the best month yet. So month one, at the end of the month, we are up $257 on what it cost us to acquire the customer and what it cost us to fulfill on the customer. So one action, if you, I know this was really dense. If you thought this was useful, here's something I would do this week. I would figure out the CFM. It says by service line item. Just you can look at your P&L and get a good grasp of what your gross margins are. If it is less than one, pick one of the levers that we talked about, the four ways to increase it, and try to deploy those within the next 7 days. Whether it's speeding up cash, increasing efficiency, reducing costs of materials, upsells, anything, right? You want to make sure that that is negative. This is going to be super useful this fall with leaf cleanups. I know a lot of us are doing aeration, overseeding, dethatching this time of year. Christmas lights, you can murder with Christmas lights on this because the ticket value is so high on those. So you can spend two, three, $400 per customer and still make your money back. It is material heavy, but you can use this, and if done correctly and you're quick enough with the cash return, you'll be able to grow as fast as you possibly want with Christmas lights. So there's the formula and what the break even was, again, as a reminder. So if you want to scale faster, that CFM, right, if it was less than one, try to deploy something to increase what the CFM is. So this here, if you want to scale faster, make that two, three, or even four times CAC, right? What happen or how it happens matters less than the fact that it happens. Okay, so like this can be done in the spring for acquiring mowing customers. Oftentimes they'll have a lower CAC. Then you just upsell high ticket items like cleanups, aerations, mulch, whatever. You can do prepays. You can do anything as long as the average value across the whole 30 days, that whole cohort of customers, is getting your average uh, customer ticket value across that threshold. So, yeah, that's said right there. Not every customer has to accept an upsell because you might have somebody that prepays for the year, and that's 3 grand right there, right? So that takes care of 10 others. So this whole concept is just like a black box. Think about a black box that every time you put $100 in, you get a customer out the other side where their cost of goods are already covered. So they paid your team, they paid you to pay your team, the materials, all of that good stuff, and you got an additional $400 back. Not only can you go buy another customer, but you can go buy three others. Every one customer gets you four. You can scale as fast as you would like. I hope that helped. Let me know if you need any help working through this or trying to figure out your numbers.